Soon after 6 a.m. this morning, the shape of the EU's budget for the next 7 years began to emerge from Brussels. It's not over yet, but the European leaders, they've been up for most of the night negotiating, occasionally snubbing each other. For example, Monsieur Hollande and our very own David Cameron told that Mr. Cameron kept himself going with coffee, biscuits and Haribo sweets. But the big news is that those leaders, like Mr. Cameron calling for restraint, seem to have got it. We don't know for sure yet, because it ain't over. The fat lady hasn't sung. But it looks like a cut of something like 34 billion euros on the budget, which is currently coming to an end. And the UKIP's Nigel Farage is in Brussels, where it's all happening. He joins us now. Mr. Farage, would you like to be the first to congratulate the Prime Minister in getting the first cut in the EU budget for 56 years?
Well, I think the British and the Germans and the other Northern Europeans have said, look, we cannot have an EU budget that expands in size. We can't sell that to our people. And I think from David Cameron's perspective, he will come away from this with the best deal he possibly could have got under the circumstances, although when we buy products from the EU, we have to be careful what the label on the tin says, because the contents can be disappointing. And I think through the rebate being clawed away, and of course the weakness of sterling against the euro at the moment, there is no prospect of British contributions falling below £50 million a day. And that's the bigger issue. You know, 5 years ago, a Prime Minister that had come back with a very tiny cut in the budget could have said success and people would have believed it. But I think the whole debate in Britain has moved on beyond that.
But isn't he in danger of stealing your thunder now, the UKIP thunder? He's offering voters a new relationship with Europe. He's offering a referendum, which will be in effect, as he said, in out. He shows that he can have, he's got friends in Europe he can negotiate with. He can make an impact on EU spending. He's thwarted the demands of France. Monsieur Hollande wouldn't even speak to him. In that kind of circumstance, what's the point of UKIP?
Well, I mean, quite. Cameron can say to the public, look, we were paying £53 million a day to Brussels. We're now paying £52 million a day to Brussels. And maybe some voters will be seriously impressed by that. For my part, for UKIP's part, our argument is we shouldn't be paying any money at all into the European Union budget. We want a relationship that is based on trade and cooperation, not being part of this political union. So really, in terms of the big European debate in Britain, this doesn't actually change anything.
And the one person who says that better than anybody, who says it trenchantly, says it succinctly, says it with authority, is your good self. So why have you missed the opportunity to tell the British people all this by bottling out of fighting Eastleigh?
Oh, please. I mean, you know, I'm here in Brussels at the summit today. I'm one of the 7 group leaders in the European Parliament. We've got a very big vote coming up in March in the European Parliament, indeed, on this budget. So I've got plenty to do over here. The other thing is, you know, I lead a party that is growing rapidly in size and that is aiming to put 2,000 candidates into the field in the local county council elections in England this year, and I've promised that I will tour around the country and support those people. I can't do everything. We're not a one-man band. There are plenty of other capable people to go ahead and fight the Eastleigh by-election.
Yeah, you see, the suspicion, Nigel Farage, though, is that you prefer the good life in Brussels rather than have to fight in the barrios of Eastleigh. You know, you prefer that.
It's a good life. Listen, Andrew, in the 1980s, during Big Bang, I was a trader in the city. That was the high life. This isn't, believe me.
Okay, you didn't manipulate LIBOR when you were there, did you?
No, I didn't.
Are you sure?
I'm not going to hold my hands up to that or anything else.
All right.
But I did enjoy myself and live a good life.
Stick with us. What is your overall attitude to the let's just, as a working assumption, assume that what we know is broadly what will be determined. What's your overall view?
Well, Liberal Democrats have consistently supported and voted for restraint on the budget. You can't have austerity at home and have big increases, as some in the European Parliament wanted. So that's how we consistently voted. And so we're overall okay with the outcome on the size of the budget, the restraint. What we're very disappointed about is the shape, the distribution of the money, because actually agricultural spending is going up. I mean, it's a bit rich for President Hollande to talk the other day in the European Parliament about how we need an emphasis on growth, but what's going to be cut is the spending on R&D, on infrastructure, transport, energy, and so on.
Spending on growth and jobs is going to go up, though, if that makes any difference.
Well, not as much as it should for a 21st century budget.
Well, my figure here is it go up from 91 billion to 126 billion.
Well, not.
My figure here is that the farm spending is actually going to come down overall.
Well, not as much as it should then.
But it is coming down, I think.
Well, if it's got come down a bit,
No,
well, we'll look at the fine print. We'll look at the fine print.
As well. No, I assume you're...
But we will...
But you're broadly in favour,
We're in favour of the size, but we need more flexibility and we need more future-orientated spending.
Now, I assume you're broadly in favour of it, so I'm going to ask you that. But this has got to get through the European Parliament, will it?
Can I start off by saying that what we've just heard Nigel Farage say is just utter nonsense. If you actually, well, look at the situation as it is. He talks about working hard in Brussels. He's in Brussels today. The European Parliament isn't even meeting in Brussels today. We have repeated debates in the Parliament. Just this Monday, we had a vital debate about securing EU funds for small and medium-sized enterprises right across Europe and in the United Kingdom. Not a single UKIP member was in the chamber. No. If there was ever a case of fraud on the British people at a European scale, then UKIP is it.
All right, well, no. Now that you've done that attack, in fairness, I have to hand back to Mr. Farage. The ball is in your court. How do you respond?
We're having an in-out debate, aren't we? And the Conservative position and the Lib Dem and Labour position is that they will try and battle for better legislation in Brussels. And the UKIP position is we will divorce ourselves from Brussels and take that burden of regulation off business. It's all
no, but he says you're not there enough fighting. That was his point.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's absolute nonsense. We have members from UKIP who are extremely active over here in the European Parliament.
All right. I want to come back to the substance of this. And my point, the question I asked you is, I saw the head of the European Parliament, the chairman, or whatever it's called, Mr. Schulz, I think his name is, up in arms about the president. Is there a chance the European Parliament could vote this down?
Well, one of the things that Martin Schulz is trying to do is to give a secret vote to MEPs, which is actually a disgraceful attempt.
You think that's outrageous?
I think it's outrageous. Yes,
there is a huge lack of democracy at an EU level, as there is so far as our citizens are concerned.
Well, don't let's forget the fish reform is because of directly elected MEPs. When David Cameron in his speech said only national parliaments are democratic, I'd like him to thank the European Parliament for the big British-orientated reform we got on the fisheries policy.
But there is certainly a need for more transparency, and to try and say that MEPs can have a secret vote on this is just disgraceful.
And I'll just go back to Nigel Farage. I assume, Mr. Farage, you will have nothing to do with a secret vote in the European Parliament.
No, I mean, this will come before the Conference of Presidents, and 7 of us representing groups in the Parliament will vote on this. I, of course, will vote for there not to be a secret ballot, but I suspect what people in Britain don't understand is that those that are driving the European project over here are fanatics. They will stop at absolutely nothing, and I suspect that Mr. Schulz will get his way, and there will be a secret ballot.
Well, no, we have to move. Talking about fanatics gives me a nice segue into our next item, and we're making Nigel Farage work for his non-money that he gets for being on this programme this morning. Stick with us.